So I don't want to keep you any longer. Let's go outside and see the outdoor space and the gardens. So this is actually a garden path that is hiding a French drain. This was a muddy mess because of this giant hill. So we made the building path here, and tons of water just comes down this hill here. And we just added this, there's like drainage under here, but it's actually a great path as well. And then we figured out the right trees for here. So like weeping willows like water, and they drink all the water. This was a crabapple tree that we were like, we want a crabapple tree, city it move. And we had 3 crabapples, 2 of them died because they were drowning. But amazing, when we added the weeping willows and this maple that likes to drink water, the crabapple started to thrive. So thinking about just the ecosystem was really helpful, and now the trees are actually doing quite well. And they got that amazing urn over there. That's a 19th century French urn. So the house being very mid-century modern, and as I've grown in my career as an interior designer and learning about different periods, really the garden is where I've incorporated a lot of much older items, so that are much older than mid-century and more international, less American, and we'll see that as we walk through. So here, like these columns are British from the, I think, 1820s. I think they're so beautiful. And I have to say, in the garden, this garden started as a PowerPoint. I started to love arranging flowers, and I will see later there's vegetable beds, and I used to raise vegetables. And this, when we first built this house, we went with a really simple grass, like mid-century garden. We didn't have a lot of trees. We didn't have budget for trees. We didn't have budget for much gardening. And this garden started much smaller, and I read Martha Stewart and Kevin Sharkey's book and was like, okay, if you want a cutting garden, these are the perennials you want to start with. And so I had my PowerPoint of perennials. I met, my neighbor had a gardener, Linda Gibson of Gibson. So she's a local gardener who I love. We now text all the time, and this garden would not happen without her. And we have such an amazing partnership. And working together, but a lot of the structure and the beauty and this garden is definitely a team effort, and a ton of credit to Linda and her team of people. So this side is really, we've learned what works here and what doesn't, like I was saying about the willows. Also, these are all willows that are hiding the deer fence. So you can't have a garden in the Hudson Valley because of deer. So these, and it takes years for these willows to grow, but they're Nijiki willows, they're Japanese willows. I think they're really beautiful. They change colors in the seasons. And so this is, on this side is plants that like water, hydrangea, the key word hydro. They love water. So these are new, but they'll really grow. And this garden, what's amazing about it is all year, like from the time the crocuses come up till the final frost, different things are coming in and out. So there's always something to cut. And it looks beautiful as it is, but there's really, I'm constantly cutting from it. I have my snippers here, and just thinking about how to plant things that are really good for cutting and look really good as a garden. So as we go through, you see the tulips and daffodils. Linda and I made a mistake this year where I thought I was buying the tulips and daffodils and she thought she was. And we each bought 1,000. And so there were an outrageous amount of tulips and daffodils. The daffodils come back every year. The tulips don't always come back. I kind of like Martha Stewart. I think you see this picture in her book of, she has 10,000 daffodils. So I'm far away from that. So mirroring the columns here are these juniper. So you have the structure of the garden. Linda talks about that a lot. And you look at the flow and the low juniper here. These lilies, look at this gorgeous, this just came up. these yellow lilies, and the rabbits have been reproducing like bunny rabbits this year. I'm keeping it G-rated for Homeworthy, but the rabbits have been out of control. So we usually have these gorgeous hollyhocks everywhere, but they've been rabbit food. And let's see, these irises are so pretty. These hydrangeas are starting. This pink is called bee balm. You see, it attracts bees. I love having pollinators here because they pollinate everything. They bring the bees to the yard, so it just like spreads, and really it's something that does quite well here. This catmint does really well, and it's really great for cooking. The lilies today are just out every day. There's something different. Butterflies are here. This is my one Japanese maple that this is its first year doing quite well. It often gets frost damage, but it's thriving this year. In fact, it's getting almost too big. And these are climbing geranium, which I just love because they're really low and they spread to the ground, and they're sort of wild. They're wild looking, quite beautiful. And so the path continues. Over here, these are all lilacs. And so there's this picture that Kevin Sharkey, who worked for Martha, has in this Martha Stewart book of this arrangement where he has like 5 different shades of lilac from white to dark purple. And a couple of years ago, my mom tragically passed away, and her favorite plant was lilac. And so I remember when I was a kid, I would go home and cut her lilacs, which was stealing from neighbors' lilac trees, but I don't know. Did I think that was a problem? Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, I brought her lilacs. I was rewarded, so it was good. So when she passed away, we planted this lilac grove here that just looks like normal bushes all year, but for like 2 or 3 weeks, it's absolutely beautiful colors of lilacs. And then you can begin to see the terrible view of the Catskill Mountains. And you can see a lot of the landscaping effort has been to hide the deer fence. So we can also wrap around the garden a lot of ornamental trees, more bee balm, the roses. The roses come and go. This is sort of the end of their first show for the summer. And so the garden really does have phases. And I would say this is like peak early summer. There's a cookbook I love called 6 Seasons. And there's typically there's 4 seasons, but in his book, and I also think in the garden, there's 6 seasons because there's early summer, midsummer, and late summer. And I think this is early summer here. So we're seeing these allium are starting. We're seeing like the bee balm are at peak, and they'll keep flowering all summer. The hydrangea will flower all summer. These irises are so spectacular. Irises and lilies are in the same family. It's confusing. These are lilies. These are allium as well. I think they're so fun. They just have a sense of humor. These are Globemaster allium. They look very Dr. Seussian. They're early in. The peonies are done. Sedum do really well, which is sort of the succulent here. These are just came up today. Like every time you come up here, there's things coming and going. These are balloon flowers, which are so cool. You can see they are shaped like balloons. You can see all the bees coming to the bee balm yard. These roses will come back, but bugs be loving those roses. And I just added these pots this year for some structure. Then coming over here, I just got this bench, and it still has the tag on it. I mean, not the real tag. It was from this auction, this place in Connecticut. This husband and wife spent half of their year in France and half in Connecticut, and they have just amazing old garden items. And then they closed their shop and had an auction, and I had it on my calendar. And this is a 19th century Scottish bench, and I just think it's so beautiful in the auction. And then this is my friend Ben calls it my wagon wheel. And I always joke with my husband, we're going to renew our vows under here. And he's like, absolutely not. But it allows you to have climbing. And climbing things take a really long time. This is Clematis, or as the British say, Clematis. I love Monty Don. There's this show in the UK that's been on BBC for forever, called Gardener's World, and it's very, very calming. And Monty Don just talks about his garden, and then they interview gardeners all over the UK. My husband calls it Xanax for bedtime. You watch them and they're like, today we're gonna tour a clematis garden. And so this is clematis, as the British say. And we have 6 different kinds of clematis climbing, and they're doing quite well. They're just so beautiful. You can see this variety is here, this variety, they come and go all summer. This one sort of looks like a 60s bob or a wig. It's going, but more will come back. And you know, when you think of flower arrangements, I like to think of fillers, thrillers, and spillers, and so this is a really good filler. And then over here, you can see the wig coming out of the lion. So I've just been adding, as I find antiques, when that was blooming, it looked like it was coming out of his head, which was cool. And then we have our climbing hydrangea over here. You have to keep them off the house because they're very aggressive, but hopefully they bloom. We're still in June, so. And then this box is for herbs, and now we're gonna come over here to the pool patio, and I will show you that part of the outdoor space. So we'll walk from we call this the crescent garden, into the pool area. So the year before the pandemic, actually for years coming up here, friends would be like, this house would be way better with a pool. And we didn't have one. And a pool destroys everything. So this was a total mess, but we did the pool. And it has a waterfall edge. It's amazing to have a pool. And I really like the idea of the grass into the marble coping. So this is local marble as well. Into the same Najiki willows, into the terrible view. And then the patio, these pots are from a company called Bergs, and Bergs. They're designed in Denmark and made in Italy. I just think they have the most beautiful pots, and I love choosing the structure and the construction of the flowers. And this year we did oranges and purples. And so Linda really talks about each pot having a focal point, and I love the concept of fillers, spillers, and thrillers, and then color theory. And another thing I learned from Linda about making a pot like this is thinking about leaf structure. So if you have it's the same with interiors. If you're going to if you're going to mix patterns, do a large scale pattern and a small scale pattern. So like this is a small scale. This is small scale, like this is more large scale, and you see how the colors and textures, or like the longer shape playing against the other shapes, or how this fern sort of plays in here. So we do focal points, fillers, swillers, and spillers, thinking about color and thinking about broadleafs and narrowleafs next to each other, scale. And here's some more. I had a lot of fun I knew I had a good carts of flowers when people were trying to shop off my cart at the nursery. I was like, those are mine. Go find your own. These are super fun and cool and beautiful, and I'm so glad they flowered purple because I wasn't quite sure what the flower would look like when I got them in the spring. This is a magnolia, which is actually doing quite well. And then these are forget-me-nots. When my husband's cousin Priscilla, who was a total character from Southie Boston, passed away, she had organized her entire funeral, and part of it was everyone got a packet of forget-me-nots, and we actually originally planted them in there, but they've made their way here. So every year somehow Priscilla's forget-me-nots find their way into the garden somewhere. I just finished this. Like I said, I love upholstery, and I think it can make such a difference. These are just RH chairs we've had forever, but I just finished this, making these. I love a contrast piping, and I think they look so chic. This is a pillow with really old fabric that I found at this shop in the Lower East Side. A woman named Paula Rubenstein. She has a great shop of vintage fabrics, and this is a Schumacher stripe that is beautiful. These are not, I mean, it is sort of tricky here to have, because you have the fire, and then having drinks here is not, it's not the most conducive for food and having a fire, but it looks pretty. And then we have the outdoor speakers here for our party house. And then I just did these as well, which is sort of the inspo. Well, the inspo for this was Yves Saint Laurent's Rue Babylon in Paris. He has these gorgeous outdoor green upholstered chairs. And then there's also some Slim Aaron's photos from Italy in the 60s and 70s. It has this gorgeous like white and green cabana stripes. And then here, this fabric is so pretty. It has the navy blue and green. And then, and we have, having light and music here is really nice in the outside. And then made these as well, which are, have the blue with the same white stripe for the, and sort of here you see like these are like, you know, this is mixing cedar and these really utilitarian chairs that are from DWR, and made them my own with upholstery and accessories, I guess. But then you see these fun like old French urns on the pool, and more Berg's pots. Like they're just so beautiful. So now we're gonna go from this pool deck to the cutting garden. Join me. All right, so now we're gonna tour the cutting garden, which is 6 raised beds that originally it was all vegetables, and I would miss a week here and it would go absolutely crazy. And I can actually buy really great vegetables, but it's harder and more expensive to buy really great flowers. So this has become a mostly flower with some vegetables. You can see the lettuces here. These tomatoes, actually, this is the first year I've grown tomatoes from seed because I have a greenhouse. So started them as little seeds, started the basil as seed as well. And I like putting basil by the tomato because the flowering of the basil brings the pollinators to the tomatoes. That's all different kinds of basil. This is mint, which is a weed. It's also really great for arrangements because it lasts a long time. And these are just cosmos that I think are really great summer flowers. This is going to be a ton of zinnia of all different colors. One trick when you first plant the zinnia right before, you know, right when they start, the same with zinnia and cosmos and dahlias even, you snip the middle from the top plant and they spread out. So, you know, they're flowering a little late because I snipped them all, but they're going to be really wide and they'll produce twice as many flowers that way. These are just wild poppies that, you know, just have grown quite well here. So we kept them. We have some other stuff coming in behind them. And then this was another poppy that made its way here, which is so beautiful. And these are all dahlias from tubers that each stake is a dahlia. So you don't water the dahlias until they come through the ground. But these are like weird, rare dahlias that I can't wait to see what they look like because this is my first year growing them. So let's go from the raised bed cutting garden up to the greenhouse. So this is the greenhouse, which is something I just put in last year. So it started as, let's have a greenhouse. And so I found this beautiful greenhouse that was mid-century. It was the style of the house. And I thought, oh, we'll just lay a cement floor and we'll build a greenhouse. But nothing's ever that easy because the land was really slanted. So we needed to have a retaining wall. And so I decided to use local bluestone for the retaining wall, and I was really into French decor, especially French garden decor. So it is a mid-century structure with a lot of French decorative items and this path. So it's like a small walled garden here, and it gets really, really hot. That's why they call it a greenhouse. And so this is our lavender, which is the first year of the lavender, and it is thriving here. And then nasturtium are the edible orange flower. Again, purple and orange is such a nice combo. This was from that store that I mentioned. This is a faux bois, which means fake wood, like an old French bench, and it looks like fake wood. And this fountain is 19th century from Paris, and it just was like the right scale for this wall. And it's actually run by a garden pump. So we built like I said, this was supposed to be a really simple greenhouse, but it never is. And so this has just a pond pump. We built a concrete water storage beneath it, and the water goes into it and recirculates through. But it looks like when you go to like Italy or France and you just have the running water. Don't tell. And the thing about building walls like this is the snakes really love it. And I know they're just garter snakes, but I like it when I don't see them. So I don't see them today. Maybe we can get some wildlife footage, but none here. And these are 1940s French deco outdoor chairs. I love 1940s decor. I love 1940s French decor because it was like right before mass manufacturing. So you still have, like, they look very modern, but they also still look very old fashioned. I love the patina of them. I was so thrilled to find these. And then these are 3 ornamental apple trees and my solar lighting. So as we go into the greenhouse, you can't really have much in the greenhouse in the summer except succulents. And so I've been growing succulents. These are French cafe tables and lots of Berg's pots as well with a pencil cactus. I love this succulent tray. It's really, really warm in here. Look at this guy. This is another Berg's pot that I think is just so beautiful. And these cactus, I think cactuses are camp. These came mail order, and you just they came chopped and you just put them in the dirt and they thrive. And I think this is really fun. I love the feet of this column. I would guess this is like 1940s if I had to guess. I could totally be wrong. This is a pickling jar that is great for here. I love the scale of it. These are old, sort of more mid-century. I love how beat up and patinaed that is. These are old French, like I said, French cafe tables. More succulents. My dried hydrangeas from last year that were too pretty to throw away. And then lots of fans, because you can never have enough fans. Just something cool about this is these windows are tied to a thermostat. And when it gets past a certain temperature, which is always, they automatically open, which I thought was a really cool feature here.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.